So I know we have problem 1 in the actual lecture notes, but I want to go ahead and do a different problem and allow you to kind of think about problem 1 after the fact. So we're going to go ahead and start with these two matrices. We have matrix A, which is a 2 by 2 matrix, 2 rows, 2 columns, and matrix B, which is also a 2 by 2 matrix. I'm going to begin by we're going to perform A times B. Okay? And so what I want to do is, that means that A comes first and then B comes afterwards. So technically what we're looking at here is matrix A has elements A11 through A22, and matrix B has elements B11 through B22. I want to go ahead, and if we're going to be doing A times B, I want to go ahead and take the first matrix and identify row 1 and row 2 only. And then I'm going to go ahead and look at matrix B and identify column 1 and column 2 only. And I'm going to go ahead and make another 2 by 2 matrix. I'm going to give myself a lot of space. Now, at this point, I want to point out that don't be taking notes right now. Just watch. Watch the process and try to follow along. You may even wish to pause and replay this multiple times until it makes sense. I'm going to go ahead and divide this 2 by 2 matrix, which is my answer, just to kind of keep things straight for us. Now, in this first spot right here, this is going to be row 1, column 1 multiplication. Okay. Now, for that, I'm going to strongly suggest you use 2 fingers. Okay. Your left finger is going to follow the red one right here, and it's going to go left to right. Okay. So actually, we're going to just be going to the right with our left finger. With our left finger. With our right finger, we're going to be going up and down, and in particular, we're going to be going down. Okay. So what's going to happen is we are going to be multiplying this row with this row, and we're technically distributing. And each time we move our fingers, we're going to go ahead and add. So we're going to start with our left finger on the -1 and our right finger on the -2. And we get this product. Then, at the same time, our left finger moves to the right, and our right finger moves down. And now we have 0 and 3. And every time we move our fingers, we put a plus in between. That was row 1, column 1. Notice that we moved both fingers at the same time. Let's try now row 1, column 2. That means we're going to put our left finger at the beginning of row 1, and our right finger is going to go at the beginning of column 2. This is going to give us -1 times -1, and then we're going to move both fingers at the same time. Our left finger moves to the right, to the 0, and our right finger moves down to -1. This is very complicated if you are not using your fingers. So, use your fingers and make sure that you don't move just one finger at a time. You move them both at the same time. And then a plus goes in between those two. You might wish to pause at this point. See if you could figure out how to do row 2, column 1, and row 2, column 2. So, for example, for row 2, column 1, these are your starting points. For row 2, column 2, these are your starting points. And don't forget to move both fingers at the same time. Try it out. So, row 2, column 1, we begin with our left finger on 2, our right finger on -2 in column 1. And then when we move both fingers at the same time, we have -1 times 3. Remember, both fingers move at the same time. Your left finger only moves left and right. Your right finger only moves up and down. In a similar fashion, we get 2 times -1 plus -1 times -1. Make sure you're moving both fingers at the same time. So now with the whole thing set up, we're going to go ahead and just simplify. So in row 1, column 1 position, we have negative 1 times negative 2 is a positive 2. And then that's plus a 0. Row 1, column 2, we have a negative 1, and a negative 1 is a positive 1. And then we have another 0 here. We have a negative 4 plus a negative 6, a negative 2 plus a positive 1. By the way, did you catch that mistake? Did you catch that mistake? Yeah, yeah. Okay, okay, okay. In case if you didn't, just seeing if you guys were awake.
I think I need a hug.
So what we do now is we're going to go ahead and just simplify what we've gotten. This is the product or the resultant matrix from multiplying A with B. This is very different from addition. If you're feeling overwhelmed, please note all we're doing is adding and multiplying. There aren't even any letters or any equations or anything fancy. We are adding and multiplying. So you're going to want to go ahead and maybe go over this a few times. We're going to practice quite a bit. Let's look at problem 1 now. So let's look at problem 1 now officially in the notes. And here's where you should begin to start taking notes. I'm always going to, it's a good habit to go ahead and take your matrices and divide them by rows and columns. We're going to do another 2 by 2 and then a 2 by 2 just to kind of give you a habit and to reinforce what you already learned. But you'll see problem 2 is a little different. So I'm going to just split everything up in the first matrix by rows and split everything up in the second matrix by columns. Okay. In this case, I'm again going to get a 2 by 2 matrix, and we'll show you why in a bit. I'm going to go ahead and set up my partitions. And we start off row 1, column 1 with our 2 fingers there. And we get 1 times 3 plus 2 times 2. And if you're wondering, Mr. Is it always a plus in between? Yes, it's always a plus in between. But also notice that I'm always using parentheses around each term that I'm multiplying. So if you're not going to do the parentheses, and the pluses might be a little concerning to you. If you follow my example of always using each term with parentheses, regardless if it's positive or negative, and then putting a plus in between, you'll do perfectly fine. Doing the whole row 1, column 2 thing, we get this setup right here. Moving on to row 2, column 1, again, put your fingers in the right positions. Move them both at the same time. Your right finger is going to move down at the same time that your left finger moves right. It hurts the brain sometimes. And then finally, row 2, column 2, we get this result. Let's go ahead and simplify. We get 3 plus 4, negative 2 plus 6, 9 plus a negative 2, negative 6 plus a negative 3. This results in the product of matrix A and matrix B. Now, by way of some help and reflection, you'll note that A was a 2 by 2 and B was a 2 by 2. So the number of columns in matrix A was 2. The number of rows in matrix B was 2. The answer that we got was a 2 by 2. How many rows does matrix A have? 2. And B has columns 2. This didn't really help much. So you're thinking, okay, why do we even do this? You'll see in a moment. Problem 2, we note that this is a 1 by 2, and B is a 2 by 1. We identify A as having row 1, and that's it. We identify B as having column 1, and that's it. So note that we have row 1 and we have column 1. May I propose to you that the answer will be a 1 by 1. And how do I know? Because I just have row 1, column 1. I don't have row 1, column 2, or row 2, column 2, or anything fancy. I just have row 1 and column 1. So if we go ahead and take care of this business, we have 5 times the 3, where our fingers begin. And then moving both fingers, we have 1 times negative 1. Sneak a plus in between, my bad. And if we simplify that, we have 15 plus a negative 1. So I get an answer of 14. Very fascinating. Note that they didn't have the same dimensions, right? It wasn't like a 2 by 2 and a 2 by 2. I had two matrices of two different dimensions, and on top of that, the answer isn't even the same dimension as the original two. So, let's do some thinking here. How many columns does matrix A have? 2. How many rows does matrix B have? 2. What's the dimension of the answer we got? A 1 by 1. A 1 by 1, a 1 by 1, a 1 by 1. How many rows does matrix A have? 1. How many columns does matrix B have? 1. May I propose to you the following? That if these two numbers are the same, this is pretty important stuff. If these two numbers are the same, then yes, we can multiply these matrices. And if we can multiply these matrices, the answer is going to be a 1 by 1 matrix. So, take some time to summarize. We did a couple of 2 by 2 matrices, right? Multiplying them with each other. Talk about the general process. Talk about maybe the setup or how to move your fingers or what about the pluses. Take some time to reflect and summarize on that.